I shouldn't even be telling you this. But if you're already here, I'll let you in on my secret. Her back was pressed against the bathroom wall, the faint smell of cleaning powder still hanging in the air, and the muffled sound of the church choir drifting in from the main hall. My face was between her thighs, my tongue working her like I had been starving for years. She clutched at my hair, muffling her moans so no one outside could hear. The thought that just a few feet away, her husband was probably singing hymns about purity and grace. It only made the heat in my chest burn stronger. That's the thing about sin. Once you taste it, you can't spit it out. You swallow it, you savor it, and you want more. And right there, in the church bathroom of all places, I went down on her. No hesitation, no second thoughts. My tongue traced her, explored her, owned her. Her knees trembled, and I had to hold her up. She whispered my name like a curse, like a prayer, like something dangerous she should never have said out loud. I'll tell you this straight, I would do it again. But before I give you all the details, before I lay out every raw, forbidden moment, we need to make a deal. If you're listening, if you're watching, do me one favor. Hit that subscribe button right now, smash the like button, and share this with someone who loves secrets as much as you do. Because this isn't just one story. This is a confession, and I've got more where this came from. All right, now that we're clear, let me take you back to the beginning. Because it didn't start in that bathroom. It started weeks before, in a small-town church where temptation grew like wildfire under the surface of polite smiles. The first glance. I wasn't looking for trouble. I came to church the way I always did. Late enough to slide into the back pew without being noticed. Early enough to avoid the pastor's judgmental stare. It was a typical Sunday morning in America. The air smelled like coffee and cheap perfume. And the choir was warming up with a song I'd heard 1,000 times. And then she walked in. I didn't know her name at the time, but I remember the way the light from the stained glass window hit her face. She wasn't dressed like the other women. No stiff suits or oversized hats. She wore a simple dress, fitted just enough to make my throat dry. Her smile was polite, but her eyes, those eyes, lingered just a second, longer than they should have when they met mine. She sat down 2 rows ahead of me, her husband on one side, her little boy on the other. And me? I was done for. I couldn't focus on the sermon. The pastor's words about resisting temptation fell flat. Background noise to the way her hair brushed her shoulders when she leaned forward. I told myself I was just looking, just passing time. But when she glanced back and caught me staring, and didn't look away right away, I knew this was something else. The next Sunday, I made sure to get to church earlier. Call it curiosity, call it obsession, I just wanted to see her again. And there she was, walking in with her family, that same smile, that same effortless grace. This time, when she sat down, she adjusted her dress slowly, almost deliberately. My chest tightened. Did she know I was watching? Was she teasing me? I started noticing the little things, the way she tapped her foot during the hymns, the way she leaned in close to whisper something to her husband. But her eyes never quite softened, the way a wife should. She was restless. She was hungry for something more. So was I? One Sunday after service, I caught her by the coffee table. She looked at me, really looked at me, and smiled. "Good morning," she said. Her voice smooth, casual, but there was something under it. A secret code. "Morning," I replied, pretending it was nothing. But the way her fingers brushed mine when she handed me a napkin, there was nothing accidental about that. It went on like this for weeks. Stolen glances during prayer. Quick brushes of her hand against mine when we passed the offering plate. Long hugs that lingered too long for friendly. And then came the sign I couldn't ignore. It was a warm Sunday, and the church was packed. People fanned themselves with hymn books, sweat sticking clothes to skin. I sat behind her, my eyes glued to the curve of her neck. Halfway through the sermon, she leaned back ever so slightly, her shoulder brushing my knee. At first I thought it was an accident, but then she didn't move away. Instead, her hand dropped to her lap, fingers tracing the hem of her dress. Slowly, casually, she pulled the fabric up just enough to expose a line of smooth skin. My pulse roared in my ears. When she glanced back at me, her lips barely parted. I knew. She wasn't just playing. She wanted me to see. She wanted me. And God help me, I wanted her more than I'd ever wanted anything. The hardest part wasn't resisting, it was waiting. Every Sunday became torture. I'd count the days until I could see her again. Every glance, every touch, every whispered, "Good morning," was foreplay. Then one Sunday, as the choir sang. She slipped out of the pew and walked toward the back. At first, I thought she was heading to the restroom. But just before she turned the corner, she looked back at me. It wasn't a look of accident. It wasn't casual. It was an invitation. And like a fool, or maybe like a man who knew exactly what he wanted, I followed her. That was how it began. That was the first step down a path I can't turn back from. And if you think this first taste was intense, wait until you hear what happened next. But before we get to that, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and share this. I promise you, the story only gets hotter from here. Because I wasn't just imagining things. I wasn't just dreaming. She wanted it as bad as I did. And soon, she was going to prove it. It's one thing to look. It's another to feel. I could have lived on the stolen glances, the secret smiles, the silent invitations. That alone was enough to keep me restless all week. But when her skin finally touched mine, when I felt her warmth for the first time, it was like the world split open, and there was no going back. That morning the church was louder than usual. The choir sang strong, the preacher shouted louder, and the crowd echoed amen like they were trying to drown out every sin they had ever committed. Me? I wasn't thinking about salvation. I was thinking about her. She was sitting in her usual place, 2 rows ahead with her husband and kid. She wore a pale blue dress that hugged her body in all the right ways. Every time she shifted, my eyes followed, like I was chained to her. Her husband had one arm around the back of the pew, casual, almost lazy. He had no idea what was brewing right under his nose. Maybe that was what made it all the more thrilling. Watching her smile politely at him, then letting her gaze wander back to me. Quick, sharp, daring. It happened during the offering. The ushers passed the collection plate down the rows. Hands brushing, coins clinking, envelopes sliding. When the plate reached her, she slipped a folded envelope in, then turned to pass it behind her. To me, our fingers touched. It should have been nothing. Just a casual brush, the kind of thing that happens every Sunday without meaning. But her hand lingered. Instead of letting go right away, her fingers curled around mine for a split second longer. Her skin was soft, warmer than I expected. My chest tightened. My hand burned like I had touched fire. I looked up, and she was already looking at me. She didn't smile, didn't wink, didn't move. But the message was there, clear as day. I meant that. After the service, I made sure to hang around the coffee table again. People stood in clusters, chatting about football, work, kids. The air smelled of cheap donuts and church-brand coffee. I saw her across the room, talking with another woman. Her husband was busy shaking the pastor's hand. My chance. I walked over, casual as ever, pretending I was just reaching for a napkin. "Good morning," I said. She turned. That same polite smile. But her eyes, those eyes were burning. "Good morning," she replied, her voice smooth, steady. Her friend kept talking, but she shifted slightly, just enough for her arm to brush mine. At first, I thought it was an accident. Then she pressed harder. Every nerve in my body lit up. In church, hugs mean nothing. People hug all the time. Friends hug, strangers hug, even enemies hug in the name of peace. But this hug was different. As the crowd started to leave, she stepped toward me. "See you next week," she said, arms opening. I stepped in. Her arms wrapped around me, firm but soft. I felt her body press against mine, the warmth of her chest, the curve of her hip. And just when I thought she was going to let go, she held on. Longer, deeper. Her lips brushed my ear as she whispered, "Take care." Nobody around us would have noticed. But I felt it. Every cell in me screamed with the truth. This wasn't just a hug. This was the first move. The next Sunday sealed it. Service was long, the pastor talking about temptation, sin, and forgiveness. I almost laughed at the irony. She sat in front of me again, shifting, teasing, every movement a silent weapon. During prayer, we were all asked to join hands across the pews. My pulse spiked. Her hand reached back for mine. I slid my palm into hers. Her grip was firm. She didn't let go right away when the prayer ended. She squeezed. Once, twice, slowly, like a secret language. I squeezed back. And just like that, the line was crossed. That afternoon, I couldn't get her out of my head. I drove home replaying the hug, the hand squeeze, the way her fingers lingered on mine during offering. Every detail burned into my brain like a brand. This wasn't in my imagination anymore. She wanted me. She was calling to me in the only way she could in public, daring me to step up, to follow through. The risk didn't matter. The guilt didn't matter. All that mattered was the thought of touching her again. Let me pause here. Because if you're still listening, if you're still with me, you know exactly where this is going. And if you want to hear the rest, the parts that are going to get even hotter, make sure you like this video, share it with someone bold enough to handle it, and subscribe to the channel right now. Because trust me, this was just the beginning. Now let's get back to it. It was 2 Sundays later when she gave me the whisper that set everything in stone. The service had just ended. People were filing out, laughter filling the air. Her husband was chatting with someone near the exit. She walked past me, slow, casual, pretending to adjust her purse strap. Then she leaned close. So close her lips almost brushed my cheek. "I think about you," she whispered. And then she was gone, walking away like nothing had happened, her heels clicking against the church floor. I stood there frozen, my heart pounding so hard I thought someone would hear it. That was it. No more guessing, no more second guessing. She wanted me. The following Sunday, during the closing prayer, the lights dimmed slightly as everyone bowed their heads. I felt her hand slide back over the pew, searching. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed it. Our fingers laced together, tight, desperate. She didn't let go until the final amen. When the lights came up, she didn't look back. Didn't need to. The connection had already been made. Driving home that day, I couldn't keep my hands still on the wheel. They shook with the memory of her touch. That single squeeze, that single whisper, it was more powerful than anything else I'd ever felt in that church. And it was only a matter of time before those hands went further. I knew it. She knew it. And when it finally happened, it would be in a place where no one dared to look. It was only a matter of time before we crossed the line. The touches, the hand squeezes, the whispers, they were the matches. But the fire? The fire started the day she led me out of that sanctuary, with nothing more than a look. The pastor's sermon dragged on about resisting temptation. Funny, right? He talked about keeping pure hearts, keeping clean bodies, keeping vows. But I wasn't thinking about vows. I wasn't even hearing the man. My eyes were fixed on her. She sat in front of me again. Her hair tied up this time, neck exposed, dress hugging her curves. Every so often she'd shift. And her scent, something soft, feminine, forbidden, drifted back to me. Halfway through the sermon, she turned her head slightly. Our eyes met. She didn't smile, didn't frown, just looked at me with steady heat. Then she glanced toward the back doors. And I knew. She stood, casual, like she just needed the restroom. Her heels clicked against the floor as she walked down the aisle. I hesitated only a second before following. My chest pounded. My palms were sweaty. It felt like the whole church could see me, like 1,000 eyes followed my every step. But no one turned. No one cared. The hallway was quiet, lined with framed Bible verses and old photos. My footsteps echoed. She was waiting at the corner, leaning against the wall like she owned the place. When I reached her, she didn't speak. She just grabbed my hand, soft but firm, and pulled me toward the women's restroom. The door shut behind us with a soft click. The tiled room smelled of soap and faint perfume. Before I could even catch my breath, she pushed me against the wall and kissed me. It wasn't a shy kiss. It wasn't gentle. It was hungry, desperate, like she'd been starving and finally found food. Her lips crashed against mine, her tongue forcing its way in, her body pressing close. I gripped her waist, pulled her tighter. She moaned into my mouth, soft but sharp, like she'd been waiting forever. That kiss was the confirmation, the seal. Whatever guilt we might have had was gone in that moment. We were already too far gone. She pulled back just enough to whisper, breath hot against my ear. "I can't stop thinking about you." Her eyes burned into mine, daring me to back away. But I didn't. "I can't either," I whispered back. And then I kissed her again, deeper this time. My hands slid down her hips, gripping, pulling. Her dress rode up slightly as she leaned against the sink. She bit her lip, staring at me, then said, "Do it." I dropped to my knees without another word. Her dress slid up around her thighs, smooth skin gleaming under the dim bathroom light. I pushed her against the sink, my hands parting her legs. The taste of her hit me like a drug. Sweet, forbidden, overwhelming. I buried my face between her thighs, tongue tracing every inch, sucking, licking, devouring like I'd been waiting my whole life for this. She gripped my hair, hard, trying to stifle the sounds spilling from her lips. Her breath came fast, shaky, her body trembling against me. The thrill of it, the risk, the danger, The sheer wrongness only made me hungrier. Outside, the faint sound of the choir drifted in, voices rising in worship while I sinned on my knees. Her hips bucked against my face, desperate, begging for more. I gave it to her, relentless, tasting her until her legs shook so badly I had to hold her up. She tried to keep quiet, but a soft moan slipped out, echoing against the tiles. We both froze. For a second, I thought someone had heard, that the door would swing open and everything would come crashing down. But the hallway stayed silent. The music covered us. She looked down at me, eyes wide, chest heaving. "Don't stop," she whispered. And I didn't. When it was over, she pulled me up and kissed me hard, her taste still on my lips. Her hands trembled as she fixed her dress, her breath shaky, but her eyes fierce. "We shouldn't," she started, but the way she looked at me told the truth. She wanted it again. So did I. We stood there for a moment, catching our breath, the sound of running water from the faucet covering our silence. Then she gave me one last kiss, soft this time, and slipped out the door. I waited a minute before leaving, adjusting my shirt, wiping my mouth, heart still racing. When I walked back into the sanctuary, nobody looked at me. Nobody knew. But I knew. And so did she. Let me stop right here, because if you're still following along, you're deep in this story now. So don't just listen in silence. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with someone who can handle a secret this heavy. Because trust me, the story doesn't stop here. What we did in that bathroom was only the first time. And once you cross that line, there's no going back. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't think about anything else. The sermon, the hymns, the people, they all faded. All I saw was her pressed against that sink, her eyes closed, her body trembling under my tongue. I knew we had just opened a door we couldn't shut. I knew I'd see her again next Sunday, and it wouldn't stop at just one time. Because now she had a taste of me, and I had a taste of her, and that taste was addictive. The next week, she didn't even try to hide it. When she walked into church, her eyes found me instantly. Her lips curved into the smallest smile, the kind that nobody else would notice. During the service, when the pastor preached about forgiveness, I caught her biting her lip, her cheeks flushed. And when she left early to use the restroom, I knew exactly what she wanted. And I was ready, because I'd go down on her again, and I'd never stop. They say the first time is a mistake. The second time is a choice. But the third, the fourth, the fifth, that's not a choice anymore. That's an addiction. And that's what she became to me. My addiction. After that first bathroom moment, I couldn't think straight. Everything in my life slowed down except her. At work, I'd stare at spreadsheets and see her face. At night, I'd lie in bed and hear the faint echo of her moans. Every Sunday felt like a countdown, every hour a drag until I could see her again. It wasn't just lust anymore. It was hunger. Pure, burning hunger. And I wasn't the only one. The very next Sunday, she gave me the look again. That same fire in her eyes, that same pull. She didn't even wait long this time. Halfway through the sermon, she stood up, smoothed her dress, and slipped out. I followed. When I walked into the bathroom, she was waiting, lips parted, body pressed against the wall. No hesitation, no small talk, just raw, burning need. I dropped to my knees like I was praying, but trust me, I wasn't praying. Not in the holy sense. My prayer was the taste of her, and I stayed there until she gripped my hair so hard it nearly hurt. When she finally pulled me up, breathless and trembling, she kissed me like she wanted to swallow me whole. We didn't say a word. We didn't need to. This was our new normal. It kept happening. Week after week. She'd slip out during the choir's second hymn, or sometimes after communion, and I'd follow like a man chasing salvation. We'd lock ourselves in the bathroom, or sometimes even the supply closet if it was empty. Sometimes she'd ride me with her hand over my mouth to keep me quiet. Sometimes I'd push her against the wall, tongue deep, her legs wrapped around me. The danger, the risk, it only made it better. Outside, people sang about holiness. Inside, we created our own unholy worship. And the more we did it, the harder it was to stop. One night after Bible study, she messaged me on a burner number. "Meet me outside. Car's unlocked." My heart nearly exploded as I walked into the parking lot. The church building glowing behind me, the lot almost empty. I slid into the passenger seat. And before I could close the door, her lips were on mine. The windows fogged fast. Her dress was pulled up, my hands everywhere. She moaned into my mouth, her fingers digging into my shoulders. It was reckless. Anyone could have seen us. But we didn't care. The fear only made it sweeter. When we were done, she laughed softly, a sound so beautiful it didn't belong in a church parking lot. God's watching, I teased. Let him, she whispered, biting her lip. Let me stop right here, because if you've been following this story, you're already hooked. So don't just sit back. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who loves secrets. Because trust me, the story isn't cooling down. It's only burning hotter. All right, let's keep going. I started living for Sundays. It didn't matter what else was going on in my life, work deadlines, family dinners, bills piling up. None of it mattered. My whole world shrank to one thing, her. Sometimes she'd message me midweek. Just a single line. I can still taste you. I'd stare at my phone like a teenager, blood rushing, unable to focus on anything else. She became my drug, and I was hooked. And the worst part? She knew it. She knew exactly what she was doing to me. We almost got caught once. It was a Sunday morning, the bathroom door locked. Her legs wrapped around me, both of us lost in the heat. Then knock. We froze. Anyone in there? A woman's voice called. We didn't breathe, didn't move. After a long pause, the footsteps faded away. We waited another full minute before slipping out, clothes rumpled, hearts racing. We looked at each other, fear flashing in our eyes. But then she smiled. And I knew right then we weren't going to stop. One Sunday after service, as people chatted in the lobby, she leaned in for her usual friendly hug. But this time, her lips brushed my ear and she whispered, "Next time, I want more." Her voice was low, husky, dripping with promise. And just like that, I knew this addiction was only going to get stronger. It wasn't just the church anymore. It wasn't just the parking lot. She started finding excuses, quick. Runs to the grocery store where I'd happened to be. A coffee shop 2 towns over where we could sit in the corner and pretend. We were strangers until our knees brushed under the table and our eyes betrayed us. We were reckless, but we couldn't stop. And every time I looked at her, every time I tasted her, every time I heard her whisper my name, I knew the truth. I didn't want to stop. You want to know the craziest part? It wasn't guilt that kept me up at night. It wasn't fear of being caught. It was craving. I craved her laugh, her scent, the way her body shook under my tongue. I craved the danger, the forbidden heat. I craved the addiction. And every Sunday, every hug, every whisper, every locked bathroom door, it fed me just enough to keep me coming back. But hunger like this never stays satisfied for long. And the next time, she wasn't just going to want me on my knees. She was going to want everything. I still remember the way her perfume lingered in the small bathroom after she left. A mix of vanilla and something floral, faint but heavy in the air, like the room itself knew what had just happened. I stayed behind for a few minutes, staring at the tiled wall, catching my breath, and trying to calm my racing heart. The church was still full of people. The choir's voices floated faintly down the hall. The sermon had already begun, yet I didn't care. I had just done something no one would ever imagine, something no one could take away from me. And I'll be honest with you, I don't regret a second of it. Most men would keep something like this buried forever. They'd carry the guilt until it crushed them. But me? No. I'm telling you because I want you to know the thrill, the rush, the madness of it all. Maybe you'll understand why I'd do it again without a second thought. Before I go deeper, do me one favor. Hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe. You don't want to miss what I've got to tell you. Because this isn't just a confession. It's a piece of me I'll never show anywhere else. When I finally left the bathroom, I had to act calm. My shirt was tucked, my face washed, my body pretending it hadn't been trembling minutes before. I walked down the hallway with the weight of a man carrying a secret sin, but with the smile of someone who had just touched heaven in the wrongest of ways. She was already back in her seat, her head bowed as if she had been in prayer the whole time. Her husband sat right next to her, clueless. He looked peaceful, his arm resting lightly on her shoulder. The thought almost made me laugh, but I kept my lips shut. When her eyes lifted and found mine, only for a second, I saw it. The spark. The tiny grin she hid by biting her lip. That was all I needed. Proof that she was as reckless as I was. The rest of the service passed in a blur. The pastor preached about forgiveness, about resisting temptation, about staying pure. And there I was, nodding my head like an obedient churchgoer, while the taste of her still lingered on my lips. When the final prayer ended, people filed out of the pews, shaking hands, greeting friends. I hung back, letting the crowd thin. She left with her husband, smiling, laughing, like nothing in the world had happened. And maybe to everyone else, nothing had. But inside me, something had changed. That night, lying in bed, I thought about her again. The way she had whispered my name, the way her body shook against mine, and the way I'd wanted her so badly I didn't care where we were. I know what you're thinking. What if we had been caught? What if her husband had walked in? What if someone had seen us? The truth? None of that mattered. Because for those few minutes in the church bathroom, nothing else existed. Not her marriage, not the risk, not the world. Just me, her, and the sin we both craved. Would I do it again? Yes, in a heartbeat. Maybe you're wondering why I'm sharing this with you at all. Why not take it to my grave? Because secrets like this burn inside you if you keep them locked too long. They eat away at you, clawing for release. And telling you, anonymous, faceless, behind a screen, feels safer than telling anyone else. It's my way of letting the fire out without burning down my own life. And maybe, just maybe, someone listening knows exactly what I mean. I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to justify. I'm here to confess. And my confession is simple. I went down on her in the church bathroom. And if the chance comes again, I'll do it again. That's the truth. That's my story. That's my sin. If you've been with me this far, thank you. And if you want to hear more stories, raw, real, and unfiltered, subscribe to this channel, like the video, and share it with someone who craves a story worth remembering. Until then, I'll stay anonymous. But know this, I'll never forget what we did, and neither will she.